Hi, today we're going to be talking about balanced breathing on the didgeridoo. It's useful for technique and will enable you to play better if you've got good breathing technique. And also it's good for your health. So balanced breathing is a really useful thing to have. So first thing I'm going to just mention before I get into the thing I want to talk about is when you first start playing, get circular breathing, quite often, as I did, you get either too much air or too little air. So that needs to be worked out a little bit. And you need to focus on, if you've got too much air, practice drawing in less air and vice versa, the other way around. So that's just a brief mention on that because I really want to cover this other technique. This other breathing practice may also enable you to balance your breathing out as well if you've got too much or too little air. So what I'm going to start with today then is the drawing in of the breath, and there's also the pushing in, which allows you to draw air in as well. And when we breathe normally, we just draw air into a diaphragm, which is sort of down here, and the diaphragm comes out, and then it contracts as we breathe out. And that's a natural unconscious process. Body does it automatically. So that's the drawing in. And then the other way around, we're going to be pushing in, which is a more of an unnatural process. But first off, let's start with drawing in. And I'm just going to do a simple do-wah and breathe on the wah as I would do normally. So here we go. And then I'll explain afterwards. I'll show you what I'm doing with my hand for what's happening with the diaphragm. Right, I'm just doing sort of a ooh-wah, or do-wah. And as I'm showing you, when I'm doing that, my diaphragm's coming out. And although I might do it on every one, I think I started on every one and then I did it on every other one, sort of do-wah and then do-wah. So you have to, in time, you have to get used to, or you will learn where and when to breathe. You might want to do it every go to start with, like. But you might end up with too much air if you breathe every go. So just practice that. Anyway, just to practice the drawing in process. And that's what you might be doing anyway. So that's sort of more to do with the natural breathing. It's kind of more exaggerated because you're taking in a bit more air than normally. So the other way round, I'm going to show you this, is where we push the diaphragm in. The diaphragm's going in. And then a certain amount of automatic air already comes back in the nose after you've pushed in. So it's in reverse of what we're doing. So I'm going to do that now. Right, so I've sort of doing it on every go there. But again, you can experiment and do it on every go or do it on every other go and practice. Because when you're playing again, you won't be doing it on every go necessarily. Though more or less when I'm contracting and I'm using a bit more power play, like I'm doing a poof or a poof-a-wah, something like that. Then I've contracted the diaphragm, and then the air's coming in more automatically or with just a slight draw process, if that makes sense. So those are the two different way rounds to breathe, that I use anyway. And when I did it the first way, I just was pressing more gently, and so the air was a slight draw in on the breath, but not as much as if I'm just drawing. So you can reverse that round and practice those two things. Very simple to practice. I'll do it again. The drawing in process. So when I'm drawing in, again, I'm going to be drawing in the breath and the diaphragm will be coming out. That's that. And the other way round, where I'm pushing the diaphragm in and drawing in afterwards. I mean, when you draw it in and you're contracting the diaphragm, it's automatically that you'll be sort of drawing the air in afterwards. So that's kind of the two different ways. And really, when you're learning to develop your playing and your breathing technique, it's ideal to fit both methods in, so you're not always drawing in. Because if you can balance it between pushing, and even when you do the explosives, which you will want to do that anyway, when you do an explosive, you'll want to be going. You'll want the air to come in automatically, and you can practice that. And if you go, you'll feel the air come in. If you contract the diaphragm, you'll feel it coming in automatically. So that'll give you a clue as if you're doing it right. And if you do it more gently, if you're squeezing the diaphragm in, the air still will want to come in automatically to a certain extent, though there might be a slight draw with it. So that's really key, I think. And you can practice. The next thing to do would be to practice, say, drawing in and then doing some contractions together. So you're drawing for a couple of goes and then doing the other way round. So it's something like this. It's going to be hard to know what I'm doing exactly with, when I'm swapping it backwards and forwards, but you need to get a sense of what you're doing here. So as long as you know and remember that when you're drawing in, your diaphragm's coming out, like in normal breathing. And then the other way around, where you're squeezing it in. That way, you'll also develop sort of when you're contracting your diaphragm, you'll develop a bit of power. Now, to go along with this, there's a useful yoga exercise that I've practiced for years, where you contract your diaphragm here. We're not doing the upper breathing, with mainly the diaphragm. It's the healthiest way to breathe. You can do complete breaths, but really, mainly when you're concentrating on learning to breathe diaphragmatically, just focus sort of on this area just below your rib cage down there. So one of this exercise, you can actually do some contractions, and you can go like this. I do it kind of almost on a daily practice. I do about just 100, but if you're going to start off with just say even just 5 maybe, or 10, and that's like what you're doing is you're going and I'm contracting my diaphragm really fast, and the air is just automatically going in. So it's going. And you can practice that daily. As long as you feel fit enough, you haven't got any issues, any medical problems that should stop you doing, make sure you're okay to do it. And if you feel fine and you feel, you can do that, practice it. Because in time, if you do that over a period of a few weeks, your diaphragmatic power will improve. And then, you can do like the video I've done on the punch, you can do that. I'm going, that's the punch sound. But anyway, this is about balanced breathing, and it enables you to do that as well. So really and truthfully, in time, when you've been practicing this, the drawing in and the pull, and the pushing in, the drawing and the pushing, and then you just learn to combine it. You have to do that. You have to do it with the feel of your body and your breathing, and find what's right for you, because we'll all breathe slightly differently. We can learn the techniques correctly from one another, but then we have to adjust it and fine tune it to our own bodies and her own thing. And if you just get a balance with it, you know, you're going to have good health. You know, you're going to stick with some good health, and it's going to give you a great technique, and you'll be able to learn to fit in the breathing patterns within your didge rhythms. And really, you know, when you've got the circular breathing and you've got this balanced breathing, it'll be the core of your playing, because the whole of didge playing revolves, doesn't it, around breathing. So you know, or you might have a rhythm and you'll be fitting it in, but it's still central to all of our playing. So I don't think there's much else I want to say on that. I try and keep the video short. And anything else to say? No, I don't think so. Just practice, keep practicing it, and don't get frustrated if it, you know, I always say this in some of my tutorials, is you need patience. You know, if it doesn't work to start, we just keep practicing. You have to persist and practice, and until you finally get there. It'll take some time. Everyone will be different, and just practice until you begin to feel a bit more balance in your playing. You know, in like to start off with, and then the drawing and the pushing in, and get that balance between the two, and then you know, you can work it to your advantage in improving your playing, get to an intermediate and advanced level of playing where you may be aiming for. Anyway, that's all for today. Good luck with it.